What if I told you one of the most iconic promos in wrestling history was never supposed to last that long? And what if I told you the moment that changed modern WWE almost got cut off mid-sentence? On a summer night in 2011 on Monday Night Raw, the cameras focused on a cross-legged CM Punk sitting at the top of the stage holding a microphone and looking directly into the soul of the company. And what happened next felt so real, so dangerous, so uncomfortable that fans still debate to this day how much of it was planned and how much of it was a man finally saying everything he had been holding in for years. The truth is, it was only half scripted. The framework was there, the bullet points were there, the direction was clear, but the emotion, the fire, the names, the tone, that was CM Punk. When he started talking about leaving with the WE Championship, when he called out the system, when he mentioned Paul Heyman and Colt Cabana, and even took shots at The Rock and John Cena, the air inside that arena changed. Because this did not feel like a wrestling promo, this felt like a worker breaking the fourth wall and taking a sledgehammer to it. The company knew he was frustrated. His contract was legitimately expiring after Money in the Bank, and there were real negotiations happening behind the scenes. There was real tension about his position, about his lack of main event spotlight, about the glass ceiling he believed existed in WWE. Management wanted to blur reality, but they did not expect him to blur it that far. The microphone was not supposed to stay on that long. There were internal cues, there were time marks, there was a structure. But when Punk began to heat up, and the crowd began to realize they were witnessing something different, the energy fed him, and he kept going. He talked about how he was the best in the world. He talked about how he was surrounded by yes men. He talked about how the company might be better after Vince McMahon was dead. Those are not safe corporate lines. Those are not polished catchphrases. That is a performer stepping into a gray area where storyline and reality overlap in a way that makes executives nervous. When he mentioned New Japan and Ring of Honor and referenced other companies by name, it felt like the forbidden door had been kicked open years before that phrase even existed. Backstage people were watching monitors, unsure whether to cut the feed. Production crews were on edge. The tension was real because while there was an outline, nobody fully knew how far he would go, and nobody knew whether he would cross a line that could not be uncrossed. That uncertainty is what made it legendary. It was not just what he said. It was the possibility that he might say something worse. The audience could feel that risk, and that risk created electricity. Every cheer, every gasp, every chant added fuel to the moment. By the time his mic was finally cut and he looked into the camera mid-sentence, it felt like the company had just pulled the plug on a revolution, and in many ways they had. But here's where the deeper story lives. The pipe bomb was not just a rebellious outburst. It was a strategic gamble. WE knew they needed something fresh. The product was growing stale, Cena was polarizing, ratings were under pressure, and the internet wrestling community was louder than ever. Punk represented that voice. He was their avatar, the anti-hero, who said what message boards had been screaming for years. So while the promo felt dangerous, it was also a calculated risk. The company allowed just enough truth to slip through to make it believable, but not enough to lose control. That balance is razor thin, and Punk walked it perfectly. The fact that he referenced real-life frustrations, his contract status, his place on the card, gave the segment authenticity. But he also delivered it with timing and rhythm that only a master understands. He knew when to pause. He knew when to raise his voice. He knew when to smirk. The line about being a Paul Heyman guy was both an inside joke and a statement of identity. The jab at John Cena was not random. It was rooted in a rivalry that blurred professional jealousy with storyline tension. And that is what made the pipe bomb more than just a promo. It was a cultural reset. Within weeks, the Summer of Punk storyline took over WWE programming. The match at Money in the Bank in Chicago became one of the most emotionally charged main events of that era. When Punk walked out with the championship, it felt less like a scripted finish and more like a movement reaching its climax. But remember, this was not originally mapped out months in advance. The long-term vision shifted because of that promo. The reaction forced WWE to lean into it. Crowd pressure, fan investment, social media buzz, all of it pushed management to capitalize on lightning in a bottle. If the pipe bomb had felt overly rehearsed, it would have died in a week. If it had gone completely off script, it might have ended his career. Instead, it lived in the perfect storm of authenticity and structure. And yet, even with its success, the story is layered with irony. Punk became the hottest thing in wrestling, but the tension that fueled the promo never fully disappeared. The grievances were not entirely fictional. The frustrations were not entirely exaggerated. That is why years later when he walked out of WWE for real, fans looked back at the pipe bomb not just as entertainment but as prophecy. It felt like he had warned everyone. It felt like he had shown the cracks in the foundation long before they became visible. The magic of that night lies in the uncertainty. The mic staying on longer than planned symbolized something bigger. It symbolized a company momentarily losing its tight grip and allowing chaos to breathe. For a few minutes, WWE did not feel corporate. It felt alive, unpredictable, dangerous. That unpredictability is rare in modern wrestling, where scripts are polished and risks are calculated. The pipe bomb reminded audiences why they fell in love with the product in the first place, because it felt real. And when something feels real in a scripted world, it becomes unforgettable. CM Punk sitting on that stage did not just cut a promo. He changed the tone of the industry. He proved that audiences crave authenticity. He showed that blending reality with fiction creates emotional investment that pure storytelling cannot replicate. The mic cutting him off became as iconic as the words themselves because it left fans wanting more. It created mystery. It created debate. It created legend. To this day, people analyze every line wondering which parts were approved and which parts were rebellion. That mystery is the legacy. It was only half scripted, but it was fully impactful. It launched a summer that revitalized WWE programming. It elevated Punk into the main event permanently. It forced management to acknowledge a shifting fanbase. And it proved that sometimes the most powerful moments happen when control slips just enough to let truth shine through. For one night, a wrestler spoke with a freedom that felt dangerous in the world. Listened, and that is why more than a decade later, we are still talking about it.